Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Taz Effect, daily news in a way you didn't know you could use, with historical context and commentary. There is. you know, well, we won't start there. We won't start there. Now, last week, we know that Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, and current president Donald John Trump Sr. decided to gather all of our top ranking military officials in one place, Quantico, to discuss a myriad of things. There are quite a few things that have made the rounds as far as talking points, and some things not so much. Um, Here's one such thing. Trump hinted at plans to cancel 2028 election while talking to generals. President Donald Trump's speech to hundreds of the U.S.'s top generals on Tuesday hinted at plans to cancel the 2028 election, according to Democratic Representative Dan Goldman of New York. In an appearance on the Jim Acosta show on Tuesday, Goldman said the speech appeared to be preparing the ground for an authoritarian power grab. Everything about this current Trump term has been about an authoritarian power grab. It's also, I think, really dangerous because it is trying to manufacture a crisis so that Donald Trump can continue to take more and more authoritarian actions and so that he can usurp more and power, said Goldman. And ultimately, my view is that he is looking ahead to 2028, where he will say that for the cockamamie made up reasons, like he's talking to the generals about, that, well, look, we're being invaded from within, from the enemy within, and we've got to keep our border safe. And that's what our focus has to be. We can't possibly have an election under these circumstances. If you recall, Trump was talking to Zelensky and was like, oh, while you're at war, you don't have elections. One, that should show you how idiotically stupid Donald Sr. is, that he would think that it would be plausible and feasible to have an election while in the throes of war. But you could tell that his few little semi-workable smarticle particles start to cling and clack up against one another. He wants to create turmoil so that, just like BB from Philly over in Israel, he won't ever have to face accountability. He won't face the consequences for the multitude of crimes he has committed over the years. There are still prosecutions waiting on him. There's still sentencings waiting on him. Like, did you all forget that during his first term, there were international warrants out for him? And he is not eased up. So there's even more. I would say there's a laundry list waiting for him. You really think that could happen, said Acosta? Yeah, I think that's where a lot of this is headed towards, said Goldman. I think that's where he's floating a third term. That's why he's using this language of a war, of the enemy within, of securing our border. And this is why he is taking the time to, on the taxpayers' dime, remodel the White House to resemble Mar-a-Lago. Now, I foresee, because he's already messing with museums and trying to work with educators. I'm using this very loosely because I don't believe that he's ever been in the room with actual educators regarding history. I believe he is going to try to rewrite the nation's history to make it seem like he was the one great thing, like the White House was originally Mar-a-Lago. Let us not forget, before you think I'm reaching, think about how he referred to Mar-a-Lago during his first term and how he has not used it in that manner this term. Remember, he called it the Winter White House. He hasn't said that this time around. He changed the Rose Garden into a pavilion similar to one that can be found at Mar-a-Lago. The hallway leading up to the Oval resembles something at Mar-a-Lago. The Oval Office, he's starting to gold plate like his office in Mar-a-Lago. He's putting in this ballroom for all these events and everything, a ballroom that's essentially bigger than a good chunk of the White House. He is turning it into that. He does not want, not only does he not want to move out himself and face accountability, he wants a dynasty. This is his legacy. I've said this before in the classes that I teach in regards to history and in the different the lives that I do regarding history. A lot of white supremacists do not care what you think about them today. They don't care about that. They care about the lasting legacy they can leave in the history books because they know it's the last thing that you did or the most notable thing that the history books will pick up and people will talk about forever and ever. England had to reconcile this during the George Floyd protests. And what do I mean by that? There were a couple of people that had schools named after them because in their latter days, they were philanthropists. What people did not know until that reckoning, that resurrection of actual, factual, unredacted, unwhitewashed history came out, these people over in England were slave traders. They invested and privateer companies that were knee deep in the transatlantic slave trade. But these individuals knew that, oh, I can make this money this way, but as long as before I officially kick the bucket, I put a little money here, put a little money there, do this, do that, rewrite my history. And Donald Trump, as stupid and idiotic as he is, I have to give credit where credit is due, and I have to be factual and honest. He has done an amazing job of rewriting his origin story multiple times and getting the masses, whether you support him or not, to go along with the edits he makes to his own history. The entirety of his life, he did not grow up privileged financially. He didn't start a business based off of a small loan or even $1 million loan. He's a horrible business person that by the time he ran for a second time as president, because when he became president, that was his second presidential term. Bid. His second presidential bid, okay? Just like Joe Biden, second presidential bid. Biden was 3. He went from being the butt of every joke because of failed businesses, fraudulent businesses, bankruptcies. He is the man who bankrupted Atlantic City. This is the same man that thought it was a good idea to sell steaks at a place where you could get massagers and little oddball tech gadgets, luxury tech for the home. And he keeps doing that, and people buy into it. Even those that don't support him use his talking points regarding his life and his origin story to discuss him. So it is plausible. He is an impeccable marketer. He is great at branding. If he would have realized that and accepted it instead of trying to chase his father's legacy and try to outdo his father, especially after his father passed away, we wouldn't have him as a president, and he actually wouldn't need to be an unscrupulous piece of shit businessman. He does actually have a talent in branding. And no, I'm not a Trump supporter, but I'm not going to, because I don't align with somebody, act as if they don't have any good attributes. No, this is not me riding the fence. Facts are facts. And I'm also saying this, that we wonder how we get villainous, evil, vile people. And it's because a lot of times we unwittingly stifle where they need to be, what their actual talents are. And we put too much credence in saying that success is financial. I don't think people know how much misery, mental health issues, and suicide occurs in these people that you all look up to, thinking that they have an easy peasy, stress free life because of money. Roger Troutman has some relatives, specifically in the state of Ohio, that have gained a reputation, and I understand it, of to people who are not in their inner circle being some dicks. That they're very mean, very rude. You'll hear people talk about it. And then you'll hear other people say that they're the sweetest, kindest, nicest people you'll ever meet. There's a reason. There's defense mechanisms put in place for them to know, hey, do you want to be around me because you think that I'm a cool, awesome person and you've gotten to know me, or do you want to be near me because of the perceived perks of the Troutman name, of the Troutman legacy? Same with Dave Parker's family. You'll run into some family members that right off the bat, you're like, oh, they're so sweet. And the other ones are very standoffish because they don't know why you want to be in their sphere. On top of the adage of they very rarely have people that they can go to and be vulnerable with, because if they admit that something is bothering them, people immediately hit them with, oh, nothing should bother you because you have X, Y, and Z in the bank and you get to do this and you get to do that. So that means money removes you from being human. Because when people get to the point where money and power and influence removes you from humanity, you get the billionaires, millionaires, and even some thousandaires that do the things that we complain about, and have all of us coming together saying, eat the rich. So what is it that you want? You say you want to date somebody that has all this maturity, financial maturity, emotional maturity, all of this, but you're hindering it in the process and you don't realize it. And no, I'm not saying that all of us are responsible for Trump and him being in the White House. We know who's responsible for that and the layers that went into it. But overall, we are responsible for the society that we reside in. And in order for change to happen, we collectively have to be a part of that change. We have to be the change. Protests are great, but protests only work in conjunction with litigation, legislation, and lobbying. You all say that you were scholars of the beginning of the civil rights movement because we're still in the civil rights movement. We have not achieved equity. So until that, we are still in the civil rights movement. See, they love to teach you that there was an end to things that are still going on. All of the change that was able to be accomplished, it wasn't just by people taking to the streets and marching. There were letter writing campaigns, there were petitions, there were people who became lobbyists, there were people who realized that their talents were in legislation and they became legislators. There were people who litigated to get to a point where it got to the Supreme Court and that decision became the law of the land. And when you have certain people distracted by trying to quell the protest, you can have all those other cogs working in the background. But everybody wants one quick fix. They want one thing that can happen within a scheduled amount of time, as if activism is a 9 to 5, or as if activism is going to make you notable and make you wealthy. It doesn't. It doesn't. Those that had the greatest impact and the greatest influence and that paved the path to the greatest amount of success in regards to civil rights, you don't know their names, you don't know their faces. Some of them you're beginning to learn about because more educators and historians are getting larger platforms due to social media to be able to teach and enlighten the masses more. But no, do you think all of the change that happened just because of Frederick Douglass, Malcolm X, King, and Rosa Parks? And quite honestly, you all uphold Rosa Parks more than you should. And before you come at me trying to critique, criticize, or cancel, let's be honest. What she did accomplished nothing. The boycott accomplished nothing. It was a great distraction. It was a unifying force. But the change came through the court case that was heralded by a 15-year-old Claudette Colvin. There were adults that dropped out of the case, but Claudette stayed the course with a few other people. It was that case that made it to the Supreme Court that invoked the change. But y'all want to name everything off of Rosa and tell everybody they can't speak down about Rosa, who sat down on a bus after a plethora of other people did the same damn thing. See, if we're going to get change, we need to glorify and uplift the correct people. We say every day, oh, we're platforming the wrong people. We're making the wrong people famous. You've been doing that. Social media didn't start these things. You got all these things named after Rosa Parks. Claudette Colvin is still walking around. And she's the true history, and she was the one that brought the change. And that's who we can learn from today to get things done. It's not always the adults, because it's not always the adults that are out in the streets, so to speak, getting the brunt of most things. But it is the adults that after a certain period of time will act as if things ain't that bad or rewrite their own history. How many people do you know today that are older than desegregation that are pretending not to see the racism that's rampant? But let's continue. Ben & Jerry's co-founder using a chainsaw destroys Pentagon model with Republican Army colonel. While President Donald Trump told hundreds of U.S. generals and admirals on Tuesday that the military should use U.S. cities as training grounds for soldiers, Ben Cohen, co-founder of Ben & Jerry's Ice Cream, presented his fictitious Department of Pentagon Express, dope, a play on Elon Musk's Doge, at a press conference near the U.S. Capitol building. As reported by ABC News reporter Beatrice Peterson, who shared the video, Cohen took a chainsaw to a model of the Pentagon, and when the blade cut through the model, paper money flew out. Now, I know a lot of people were saying they were going to boycott Ben & Jerry's because Jerry, the other half of Ben & Jerry's, left the company because he said that he could not do things in a manner that he originally set out to do when he agreed to start the company. I need y'all to realize, when there's multiple people involved in stuff, you cannot be quick to say, oh, I'm withdrawing support, and you haven't even checked out the other people. Like when folks were saying, oh, I'm no longer going to watch MSNBC because Joy Reid is gone. So what about all the other melanated folks on there? I know y'all tend to focus on the handful of white folks on MSNBC, but do you know there's a whole lot more melanated folks, a whole lot more folks that happen to have been marginalized and come from communities that have been marginalized on MSNBC that actually speak up and challenge things? Support their shows. Support them on social media. And if you want to give up on legacy media altogether, that's perfectly fine. That's absolutely fine. But I'm saying you cannot criticize the other side when essentially you're doing the same thing. And especially at a time where our economy is shrinking, Let's be more mindful, strategic, and targeted with our boycotts. If we're just willy nilly boycotting places and things, especially with no plan and no time frames, what are we doing? What are we doing? Now, we're well aware that for the second time in recent history, keep in mind I'm saying recent history, there has been a government shutdown. The last government shutdown we had, you guessed it, was under the first Trump presidency. I'm sensing a trend here. Everybody's complaining about this, and they're always like, the Democrats are doing it. If the Democrats were so gung ho about shutting down the government, how come we didn't have a government shutdown when we had a Democratic president? And how would the Democrats have done this when the Oval and Capitol Hill are GOP/MAGA? That's like saying you hosted a game night and one of your guests came through and changed all of your house rules. And you just sitting around moping. I have to wear shoes in the house now. I don't even like this rule. I don't even know why this rule exists. It's Tina's fault. Tina that stopped by when you invited her over last Friday? Yes. It's her fault that we have the stupid rule. You're blaming Tina for the rule in your house that you on a whim implemented Friday night at the game night. Okay. But government shutdown threatens food aid program relied on by millions of families. Not only that, I want y'all to realize we've already had a drastic decrease in employment, a drastic decrease in job development. Countries do not want to mess with the United States for good reason right now. Education is being attacked, so the jobs that do need to be filled more than likely will not be filled by U.S. residents. Immigrants don't want to come here because look at the propaganda porn that they're putting together coming out of Chicago right now, where they are creating the illusion of a war zone and putting residents through war zone type situations for the sake of being able to excuse their Gestapo. And countries and companies that are like, okay, we need to keep the ball rolling. We don't have enough time to build a factory in another country. Yeah, we'll pay to get immigrants to come over here. Now Trump is like, oh, HB1 visas, $100,000 a pop, which will either deter people from sponsoring people coming in or place people being brought in into a new wave of chattel slavery. Because if you're going to pay $100,000 to somebody, it behooves you to just create more company towns and not pay them a wage and not let them out of their indentured servitude at this point until you feel like you've recouped not only the $100,000 that you spent, but the profits that you believe should be attached to that $100,000. And all of this would be arbitrary depending upon who's sitting at the helm of that company. So it very well could be eventually written into law that if you came over at 30 or 40, oh, that's not enough time until you retired or kicked the bucket. Now your children need to pick up the slack for that. And oh, well, interest rate, cost of living, the value of a dollar is different. So now that person's child needs to continue to pay off that debt. Sound familiar? Because I need y'all to realize that chattel slavery didn't just happen overnight. Nothing happens overnight. It is a slippery slope. It starts off with a little snowball, that's allowed to roll down and accumulate down the hill. And for food banks, community kitchens, all this stuff, where are people going to get the extra to be able to donate? A food aid program that helps more than 6 million low income mothers and young children will run out of federal money within 2 weeks unless the government shutdown ends, forcing states to use their own money to keep it afloat or risk it shutting down, experts say. Real quick. Can we get over this only helping children and their mothers? There are fathers out here that need assistance. Their entire nuclear families, two parents, whether two men, two women, two non-binary, a man and a woman, whatever. But we have to stop with breaking things down by gender as if one, men or male presenting individuals are disposable to society, because it gives us the mind frame and the emotional immaturity that we're dealing with now. You cannot keep saying, well, I choose the bear, I choose the bear, when we're creating this scenario societally. And you cannot say you want a sensitive, mature man, but you make fun of little boys and teenagers for trying to hone into their emotions and properly regulate them. You swoon over Chris Brown, but you want to call a young man gay that wants to take a dance class. But you're amazed at those that teach themselves the same thing that they could have learned quicker in a dance class. You love to see little boys flipping all over each other at competitions, but if they go to gymnastics, they're gay. Like, I need y'all to make up your fucking minds. And let's be real. Some of the nurturers, a lot of times the nurturers in the home are the men, are the male presenting individuals. Stop thinking because somebody carries a uterus that they have a nurturing spirit. They don't. Giving birth does not instantly turn somebody into a mother, a nurturer, a caregiver, a caring person. You want certain things eradicated, but you're not reading the room. The $8 billion special supplemental nutrition program for women, infants, and children, also known as WIC, provides vouchers to buy infant formula as well as fresh fruits and vegetables, low-fat milk, and other healthy staples that are often out of financial reach for low-income households. The shutdown, which began Wednesday, coincided with the beginning of the new fiscal year, meaning programs like WIC, which rely on annual infusions from the federal government, are nearly out of money. Currently, the program is being kept afloat by a $150 million contingency fund, but experts say it could run dry quickly. And here's the thing. If you are one of those people that complains about these programs and you feel that, oh, people on assistance, they're eating like kings and we're barely getting by. First of all, shut the fuck up. I want you to think of it like this. If I give you $50, just give it to you, do I have any say over how you spend that $50? Nope. Nope. And even if I loaned you the $50, unless it was a very specific loan, and people do it all the time, even though the loan may be specific, you still don't have too much of a say over what you do with it. If you decide to split it up and try to get as many meals out of it as you want to, or if you go and splurge and get one meal, that's your business. Why do you think it's different when it comes to supplemental food assistance? Because you're quick to say, once it becomes yours, can't nobody tell you what to do with it because you're grown. So why do you want to tell somebody else what they can and cannot eat? Why do you think that people who make less than you should suffer? Because there's always going to be somebody making more than you. So how would you feel if they came up to you in the store or videoed you or took pictures of you and got on the internet going, I know for a fact they don't make $100,000 a year, $200,000 a year. How dare they be in here buying blah, 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 blah. How dare they wear blah, 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 blah. Think about it. Think about it. For every one person that you feel you're doing better than, there's 10 people who feel they're doing better than you. And guess what? The costs are still the same. Those prices in the store, people who get an EBT card, all these things, they still have to adhere to the prices. They don't get to just go in there and just whatever they put in there, they just show their card. They're, oh, okay, and they just get to walk out with it. No, they're giving a dollar amount that they cannot exceed. So they got to budget just like you do. And with WIC, as somebody who was once a recipient of WIC, it's not even monetary. It's literally down to you can have a half a gallon of this, a full gallon of this. You can have so many per this time period. That's it. And it's not always the best of the best or the tastiest of the tasty. They give you more options now, working with families that utilize it now. But you're so worried about what somebody has in their cart and how somebody should look and how somebody, like, simmer down. Like, really simmer down. Y'all really have to stop trying to assess what somebody has by how they look. There are people right now that every bit of their wardrobe comes from a Five Below, a Family Dollar, a Dollar Tree, a Dollar General, all of these things. They are just creative enough or have a good enough fashion sense that they can put it on and it looks like $1 million. My mama taught me a long time ago, it's not how much you pay for something, it's how you wear it. If it ain't meant for you and you put it on, it's going to look awkward. It's going to look bad. But if it's meant for you and it's your style and you're comfortable in it, baby, you're going to look every single time. Because a lot of people assume a whole bunch of folks walking around they spending way more money than they are. And folks sit and say, well, I saw their card. You know, there are people who take good care of their cards. Nine times out of 10, the people whose stuff looks like shit are the wealthier people because they can break it in 5 minutes, go replace it. When you ain't got it like that, you learn to take care of things. They look new longer. You learn how to fix them and repair them and jerry rig them to keep them out there. The pristine stuff, yeah, that generally belongs to the broke. Now, hold on. There are, okay. Now for this one, oh boy. Open it up with your ears. Need y'all to pay attention and listen to this. No, it is not AI generated. Yes, it is 100% real. Also, yes, we're in a fucked up place. I can't even say we're in the bad place. We're in the fucked up place.
We want to be politically correct anymore. And history will never forget that it was the SEALs who stormed the compound at Osama bin Laden and put a bullet in his head. Remember that? And please remember, I wrote about Osama bin Laden exactly 1 year ago, 1 year before he blew up the World Trade Center. And I said, you got to watch Osama bin Laden. And the fake news would never let me get away with that statement unless it was true. But I said 1 year before, to Pete Hegseth, I said 1 year before, where's Pete? In the book, I wrote, whatever the hell the title, I can't tell you. But I can tell you there's a page in there devoted to the fact that I saw somebody named Osama bin Laden, and I didn't like it, and you got to take care of him. They didn't do it. A year later, he blew up the World Trade Center, so got to take a little credit because nobody else is going to give it to me. You know the old story? They don't give you credit, just take it yourself. And it was the U.S. Navy that dumped his wretched corpse off the decks of the Carl Vinson to sink into the dark abyss.
Now, before somebody goes, are you sure that's not AI? Is that taken out of context? I'm Taz. Okay. But here we go. He also made this claim in a 2015 interview with Alex Jones. Yes, that Alex Jones. InfoWars Alex Jones. He claims that he, once again, wrote it in a book. He couldn't remember what book it was. In the book that he referenced, we'll try to reference, it makes a single reference. He has one book that makes a single reference to bin Laden. And basically it said, one day we're told about a shadowy figure with no fixed address named Osama bin Laden, and he is public enemy number one. And U.S. jet fighters lay waste to his camp in Afghanistan. Like I said, he's going to take credit for whatever he can. Now, this is what CNN came up with. Trump falsely claims again that his pre-9/11 book warned about Osama bin Laden. Now, he knows that his sycophants will buy his books, but they don't read his books. I'm not joking. They don't really pull his books out. Because like if somebody challenges me on something and I'm like, oh, you can find it in this book. And they're like, you would know. I will pull out my copy of the book. I'll open it up. If you've been around here for a while, you all know I got notebooks to go along with every book. I break everything down. I trust but verify everything. So President Donald Trump likes to portray himself as a visionary, someone who sees important things before others. Trump has been claiming for the last decade that in a book he published the year before the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001, he warned the authorities that they needed to deal with Osama bin Laden. Trump feels the need to keep acting as if he has been in the know and in the inner sphere of politics for far longer than what he has. He likes to pretend like he's had this big political influence for so long, and he has not. Hold on, sorry about that. For some reason, Substack. Hold on, Substack. I'm gonna switch chargers because I don't know why. There we go. There we go. Okay. But he likes to act as if he's had this, he's been like this big political powerhouse. Nobody has ever taken Trump truly seriously in his life. Trump's claim is false. His 2000 book contained no warning at all about bin Laden. His tale about the book's non-existent warning was conclusively debunked in 2015. CNN published another debunking when he revived the tale in 2019. He really thinks that if he just waits a couple years, he can lie. But the president repeated it once again on Sunday to a crowd of sailors celebrating the 250th birthday of the U.S. Navy. Oh, you weren't going to get a big parade for that? Why? Why not? I wonder why. Not gonna compete with the one on the other side of the globe. This time, Trump delivered the phony narrative after saying history wouldn't forget how it was Navy SEALs who killed bin Laden. In 2011, under then President Barack Obama, a frequent target of Trump criticism, Trump added in an apparent ad lib, and please remember, I wrote about Osama bin Laden exactly 1 year ago, then corrected himself and said, 1 year before he blew up the World Trade Center. And I said, you've got to watch Osama bin Laden. And the fake news would never let me get away with that statement unless it was true. A lot of people let Trump get away with a lot of things. But he also said that, he called up Pete Hegseth. I'm not sure if he was talking. Anyway, at that time, Pete Hegseth was in college. And I'm putting that in air quotes because y'all have heard Pete Hegseth. I have questions and doubts. It's not true, as news outlets have pointed out for years, but Trump continued. In the book I wrote, whatever the hell the title, I can't tell you, but I can tell you there's a page in there devoted to the fact that I saw somebody named Osama bin Laden and I didn't like it. And you got to take care of him. They didn't do it. A year later, he blew up the World Trade Center. So you got to take a little credit because nobody else is going to give it to me. People don't give Trump credit for his book's warning about bin Laden because the warning doesn't exist. The book titled The America We Deserve did not tell anyone they needed to watch or take care of bin Laden. That wouldn't have been particularly prescient advice even if Trump had offered it in January 2000. Bin Laden was already a well-known threat to Americans at the time, but the book simply did not offer it. And here's the thing. What would it do for anybody to put a warning in a book? It's no different than when people go, oh, I got this inside information. I got this inside track. I'm going to blow the whistle off of this. And they only put it on social media. Like, I know there were some people that were all hyped about the guy that said that he had Mike Johnson's grinder information. So, about Mike Johnson, first of all, didn't tag Mike Johnson. This is why I haven't spoken about it, but I'm going to speak about it now because I'm going to show you how ridiculous things are. Didn't tag Mike Johnson. It's on one social media platform. And why threaten it? Why threaten it publicly? Like intimidation tactics to send him a letter, send him an email going, hey, and put like some information that only you and him would know regarding his grinder profile. And now the guy's like, well, help me pay for legal representation. Well, I don't have the information anymore. I sent it to these people. So you gave up what would have essentially kept you safe if this is such blockbuster information to not even use it for the sake of what you were trying to invoke. Getting someone sworn in so that we could get the Epstein files released. Right. Why wouldn't you just do it? Because if you're trying to intimidate somebody, one, just doing it does nothing. Like it goes against it. It just exposes them. And it's like, we already know. But if you're trying to force somebody's hand, one thing we've learned from actual history and even Hollywood has done a great job of recreating this in multiple types of films. You send something anonymous, or if you're bold, let them know that who you are. If you don't believe that, they would retaliate against you like that, and you put in there like, hey, I know that your profile says anytime, anyway, power bottom. Like I'm just making that up for the sake of conversation. That would strike like, oh shit, they really got the information. Going online going, I know your information. Like I need people to not forget the not so distant past of COVID lockdown. The amount of people that claimed that they were medical professionals, that they knew medical professionals, and basically if you listen to these people, everybody in the United States was breaking HIPAA, okay? Breaking the fuck out of HIPAA. Now, I know HIPAA ain't that old, okay? It's not. Some of y'all don't remember a time before HIPAA. I do. When HIPAA first came about, I was still working in healthcare. I was a part of the first training courses of HIPAA and how in-depth we had to learn about it. And people focus on one aspect of HIPAA, but it's way more vast than what you think and what you know. But I'm like, they said that they knew people at the Pentagon, had inside tracks here, and were saying this and said that. Come on. People get on the internet all day, every day and lie, just like people wake up, let their feet barely touch the ground and start lying. There is somebody out there right now telling somebody some made up shit about you, talking about it's your business, and they know it because they know this, that, and the other, X, Y, yada, yada, yada. Knowing they ain't spoke to you since they were looking at you going, goo, goo, gaga. The only thing they know about you maybe is your first name and maybe who one relative is. Maybe. And that's a hard, strong maybe. Okay. Now everybody thinks that it's not everybody. Uh Brand new since he died, Kirkistans are really starting to wage war for the sake of Charlie Kirk, aka white supremacy. This next story, it'll be our final story for the day. Trigger warning, it is about death and stalking. So if you do not have the bandwidth for that, thank you for joining. Scurry on. Like I said, this will be the last story for today's show. Okay. Otherwise, we're going to get right into it. Accused killer stalker sent pizza and porn, threatened New Jersey teen over Charlie Kirk. Cranford teen accused of ramming Jeep into e-bike, killing two 17-year-old girls. Disturbing YouTube live stream shows suspect mocking and taunting victim's family. Teen linked victims to Charlie Kirk comments and prank pizza harassment. Days before mowing down two 17-year-olds on the street, the accused teen killer revealed on a YouTube live stream that he had been tormenting one of the teen victims, in part, he says, because she laughed at the death of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. Now, if you've been on the internet, you know that when they say that people are laughing at him, they're just not sad. These people are just not sad. They're just not sad. They just don't give a damn. The 17-year-old suspect from Garwood, a son of a retired police officer and the nephew of a Westfield police chief, was charged Wednesday with the first-degree murders of Maria Niotis and Isabella Salas. Relatives of Niotis said, and I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing this, said the teen had been stalking her for months, something the teen suspect acknowledged on live streams of his MLB co-op games, which attracted thousands of followers on TikTok. The teen suspect rammed the girl's e-bike with his Jeep, which police believed was traveling 70 miles per hour on a 25 miles per hour residential street on Monday. Because he is currently being charged as a juvenile, the Union County Prosecutor's Office has not addressed the allegations in detail or named him publicly. YouTube livestream reveals taunts and threats. The video where he addresses the stalking and Charlie Kirk was just one of several that remain online, where he appears to have spent enough time to amass a significant base of followers and develop a familiarity with current events and online figures such as the misogynist influencer Andrew Tate, whose human trafficking and rape prosecution the suspect was following when he was just 15 years old. New Jersey 101.5 first reported Wednesday that the suspect went live on YouTube hours after his initial arrest on Monday. The gamer told a live YouTube audience of more than 200 people that there is more to the story that you are not getting. Yeah, that you're a fucking psychopath. And why did his parents let him come home and get immediately online? You know what? I bet he said altogether. New Jersey 101.5 first reported Wednesday. The teen briefly expresses condolences to the two victims, but spends most of the 22 minutes lamenting the bullying and specified threats that he and his family had received. You mean after threatening them? And this goes to show not just white privilege, but police privilege. And police privilege is something that we don't really talk about all so much, because father is a cop and another relative is a cop, and he gets out. Nobody's advised him to shut the fuck up and stay offline. And he's just sitting there just handing the prosecution the case. Unless his family has connections or relations. Like, is this like some blue bloods situation? Making threats against my family will not be tolerated, the teen says in the video, which was supposed to be a live stream of a co-op MLB video game with a friend. Days before the deadly crash, while hosting an online baseball game live streamed on YouTube, On September 23rd, the suspect talks about sending a pizza to Maria's house by using his old iPhone as a burner because his number had been blocked. The suspect says he will order the pizza for cash on delivery. I think Maria's hungry. I think we're going to send her two pizzas. So you all know I have a vengeance against this girl for accusing me of sending porn and shit. I'm going to call a pizza to her house. He also says Maria's mother is a stupid fucking name and accused her of reporting the porn. So you did send the porn if you're mad that her mother reported it. And here's the thing. Viewers, you have a responsibility, and I'm going to say this. At this point, we're all mandated reporters. At this point, we are all mandated reporters. I am tired of after somebody's dead, people go, oh yeah, I was in that street. Oh yeah, I saw that. Oh yeah, they have been threatening them for weeks. Why was this not reported en masse? And who was in his ear telling him that he bore no responsibility for his actions? So, Fowley, you made a bad decision making a bad name of myself. You made a bad decision having this girl return to that school without me being there, the teen says on the video, referencing the girl's mother. Someone watching the stream suggests he go to the house and watch the pizza be delivered. But doxing ain't that big of a deal. This stuff ain't that big of a deal, right? He rejected the idea because the mother called the police before. While still live on YouTube, it appears that the teen's parent calls him on the phone to ask about the pizza delivery. I'll tell you what, the teen says to the caller, your daughter should have said sorry for accusing me of doing a heinous crime. Should have said sorry, but you just said she reported you, the mother reported you for sending the porn, so you sent the porn. So you want to. He continues talking to the audience about the police report, revealing that the victims believed he lived in Westfield. Think again, my cousin works for Westfield. My uncle is her boss, okay? I get to sit here and play rankings. In a clip from the same video, which has been posted on X, he accuses Maria of making fun of conservative speaker Charlie Kirk, who was assassinated by a gunman on September 10th. Hey, whenever Maria sees the pizza guy come, better think of Charlie Kirk for making fun of his fucking death. Stupid ass clown. Just remember that, the teen says. She made fun of Charlie Kirk's death on a TikTok post. If you're mad at her, why are you paying attention to what she's doing? Maybe her mother should monitor her social media activity. The irony. Where we are now, some of y'all may not like me saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I don't give a damn. Is a result of generations of, oh, that's just who they are. And now we're stuck with just who they are. As always, thank you for joining me here for the Taz Effect. I will see you all tomorrow, same time, same place. Please check out the links in my bio. There is new merch out. And there's